G'day guys, welcome to another weekly developer update. Here we are, Joe. Once again, this time comes around relatively quickly, but we've had a bit of an absence from yourself for the last 2 weeks. How's the conferences been?
Yeah, I've been running the conference life. It's been good. Been good. I've talked with a lot of community members, a lot of developers, a lot of people in and around the Ergo ecosystem. And, all things considered, it's not the hottest market right now, but we had pretty good engagement. I was really happy to see the turnout. Good questions coming from the community, I would say.
Yeah, I saw a number of comments throughout the chats just in relation to the engagement side and the sort of just the deep conversation people were having around in regards to Ergo and what Ergo offers. I think that was fantastic, and it pays testament to sort of what we're doing and the message we're trying to portray.
Yeah, there's something to be said about open source development and kind of the decentralized community that we have in place. It's kind of unique. One of the conferences was about NFTs, and the other one was more project specific. And here we are, a mainnet blockchain, right? So we didn't really have anything to sell. Like what's your product? Open source development. You can look at all the contracts that the community's put out there. You can look at all the SDKs. You can look at all the cool potential stuff we can build. And then the question is, how do you build things the right way, right? So a lot of conversations in that direction.
Oh, it's awesome to hear. And it might be a little bit more of a segue into sort of what I was just about to say also in regards to engagement throughout this bear market. And I think we're starting to see a number of the chat engagement sort of side of things. I used to jump on, and after waking up when different time zones, obviously being here in Australia, I'd jump on after a night or a daytime here in the US, and there'd be thousands of messages. And we're kind of starting to see the bear sort of take hold and people sort of drifting away a little bit at this stage.
Yeah, you get a certain silence in winter. It is what it is. That's kind of peaceful if you allow it to be, right? Yeah. Things are still happening. We're still building, but certainly, the social engagement and kind of excitement and hype that kind of comes and goes in waves is kind of in this more of a still moment.
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay. The reality is it's the perfect time to build, and to some degree there is less distraction.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, because the devs they're just head down, bum up, sort of tinkering away, building the projects themselves and updating the protocol, etc., etc. And the noise in the background where people are sort of constantly sort of asking for different bits of advice and bits and pieces like that. But on the development front, as you can see on these developer updates, everything's sort of still smooth sailing, and everyone's willing to contribute and excited to provide these updates.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. There's always going to be waves in life where, kind of all this energy comes in and then it kind of leaves, goes out. I'm sure that at some point, it'll be a lot busier than it is now, but it's also a great time to simply see who's kind of here for the long haul, right? Yeah. Which developers are going to stick around, what community members are going to stick around. And, we appreciate your time, right? We appreciate your engagement. That's a lovely thing to see. Then, once things turn around, we're going to have a lot more in place. Yeah. Like the ecosystem is going to be a lot more interesting with a lot of the developments that are happening out there. It's going to be a lot more diverse, a lot more options for users. And, ultimately that's going to provide, let's say, value in the future. So yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, on the development front, we see a number of projects actually starting to, or close to coming live now. One being Night Owl and Duck Pools, etc. There's a number of them. But also on the sort of community front, you see documentation being put together, articles being written, and all this stuff can be referred to at a later date. It's a perfect time to be able to sort of sit down without all that sort of noise in the background and contribute in a different way to what the developers can.
Yeah. Then, it's I think really this time around, let's say compared to the last market, that time, 2019, 2018, it was more of an ice age, right? We still have actually decent, engagements and Twitter conversations and, things going on in Discord and Telegram. So it's certainly a lot more lively than what I've experienced in the past.
Yeah, the crypto winter was brutal.
Ice age.
All right, well, let's jump into the developer update.
Sure.
All right, we'll kick things off. The first one is with Wilford. If you take that one, please, mate.
Sure. So Wilford submitted a submission for ErgoHack. That was EIP 38. I created a video presentation for anybody that's interested. It looks like he put it on PeerTube. Nice to see. So he also dropped a GitHub. Essentially, EIP 38 is a way to extend governance powers to miners, which is something nice to see. I did talk to him on Discord, and I'm more than willing to introduce this to mining pools and see if they're willing to support it.
Yep, that's good to see. It's something coming from the community also, I believe. Wilford's pretty active on the community side and putting forward an EIP. So it just goes to show that anyone can sort of put some thought into these sort of proposals and ultimately put the vote to miners and see their reaction.
Yeah, that diabetes thing right there on his GitHub gets me every time.
Pretty funny, isn't it? Okay, next up we have Greenhat and his team. So Jusek added an option to set the Oracle config file path. Tim L's working on the proc macro to generate the ergo tree from Sigma State Interpreter just-in-time test suite. And on Greenhat's progress, fixed 6 issues while running 2 Oracle consensus with the epoch rollover. And then also is close to the stable epoch rollover with a fresh refresh transaction. And then next we'll be doing some closed testing of the voting and updating of contracts. And then the current progress towards the release is tracked on the roadmap. So if you want to check that out, by all means, jump onto the GitHub there. Next up, we have MrStahlfelge.
So it looks like he's released a new wallet app, version 2.1.2219. That's for desktop and Android. The address book implementation UI completed for desktop and Android. Looks like next on the docket is the address book UI for iOS. Another news, we have an ErgoPay enhancement, multiple transactions drafted for review. Also, there's been a Mosaik application deployment guide added to ErgoDocs thanks to ObelFlip for the input on Flux. So I believe that's the coin flip game that's now playable on the phone. Pretty cool.
It's cool to follow a couple of people who are actively jumping in on this and seeing their reactions and the responses to which way the coin is flipped and the result. And it's pretty fun to watch. Next up, we have Morphic, and then on the Sigma side, updated and cleaned up the 5.0.1 PR for Alex to review. So that's Ergo script compiler without the AOT costing. A number of lines of code there that had to be removed. Reorganized and simplified the Sigma code base and removed unnecessary modules and unused code and worked towards Scala.js. Then on the Appkit, 4.0.11 has been released. And ErgoNode reviewed the release candidate 5.0.0, reviewed the candidate for 4.0.105, which is now live. And Miscellaneous did a security audit of MrStahlfelge's wallet app, version 2.1.2219, and reviewed the ErgoPay enhancement to allow signing of many transactions at once. And then just a couple of discussions in Discord there. And next up, just to finish, Sigma.js, another SDK.
Awesome.
And next up, we have Ilya from Spectrum.
All right, so Spectrum. Looks like the Spectrum network, the peer feature tracking has been added to Peer Manager. The network controller behavior for Peer Manager commands has been implemented. The network controller protocol handles communication system is a work in progress. In terms of Spectrum finance on the core, the private Cardano testnet v2 has started. Once complete, they'll launch a public testnet. Looks like they've almost completed the SPF airdrop API. And very soon, you'll be able to find out how many SPF tokens you'll receive for participating in trading, liquidity providing, and beta testing, and so on. In terms of the infrastructure in their backend, they've updated the faucet to work with Vassal hard fork, prepared pools for partner tokens for the testnet. On the front end side, they've added system theme and theme selector redesign, and they've added pool to swap query parameters. Looks like they've also fixed a couple bugs. They fixed the user's transaction history from the Explorer side, fixed number of input for iOS, fixed the swap buttons on the liquidity page, and fixed some design fixes in terms of border, radius, and etc.
Yep. And it looks like Yasha might have jumped on there with the emojis also for Ilya.
Yeah, looks like it.
But next up, we have Captain Nemo. And then on the Nautilus side, 0.6.3 has been released, added initial ErgoNames support. There was a example on Twitter, actually, a little video there, which is pretty cool. The DApp connector allow multiple assets target on get UTXO method, added GraphQL fallback mechanism improvements, added custom Explorer front-end support, added support for displaying on-chain NFT content, and a couple of minor bug fixes. Then onto the Fleet SDK side. Version 0.1.0 Alpha 4 has been released, added context variable support, added box serialization, and then added input integrity validation, and then just a couple of minor bug fixes also. Great to see. And next up, we have Alex.
All right, so he's been working on the node and protocol development. Looks like he reviewed a wallet profile PR. He's reviewed multiple PRs for 4.0.105. That's been released already. So those of you that are out there, time to upgrade your nodes. Looks like he finished the review for a 5.0.0 candidate. That's been something that's been in a work in progress for quite a while. So that's kind of a big achievement there. Looks like in other matters, has made progress towards decentralized grid implementation, P2S, pay to script contracts, scans for the node, and working on off-chain matching engine, making another pass on the Babel fees PR. So he's busy, but good stuff.
Nice, I guess, to have a little side project like that where you can sort of forget about the node and the protocol itself and then just have a little tinker around with the trading bots and just take his mind off things for a little bit. He actually posted a transaction on Twitter for the first grid bot transaction.
Yeah, that's going to be quite neat, especially with Babel fees, because then not only do you get the ability to potentially like range trade on a DEX, but in terms of looking at price differences between Babel boxes and the DEX, will be an interesting trade to make Babel fees a little bit more performant.
Yep. And that opens up a completely new market, really, isn't it? With a Babel fee sort of arbitrage, people being able to set the pricing for the Babel boxes themselves, and obviously with the bots, they can arbitrage between.
Yeah, it's something that depending on the liquidity and activity, will kind of scale with the network itself. Yep. Interesting to see where that will go.
Definitely. And next up, we have QX and ErgoPort. So added Ogre and Flux to the price spots. Fixed the dip spike notification and the 24-hour average charts. And then on ErgoHack 5, it delivered a project called ergo-payroll. So the proof of concept demo solution is a video below. So check some details out in the ergo-payroll Discord channel, and just working on the final presentation. So hopefully we'll see that shortly.
Yep.
Next up, we have pragmaxim.
All right. So the node development, he's added some post endpoints that could be too big for GET requests, and added a possibility to filter scan unspent boxes by inclusion height. Nice to see.
Yep. Then we have a short update this week from Luivatra. And then on the Paideia side, just putting some water through the off-chain code. So the plumbing seems to work well, and just continuing on with the Web 2.0 release on Friday. So it should be live now. During the live event where multiple projects will try out and discuss in Twitter Spaces. So it'd be great to see. And next up, we have anetaBTC.
All right. So looks like Willie dropped this week's dev updates, continued the on-chain SPV verification, and relaying smart contract development needed for interlay style wrapping. Looks like they started setting up original Rosen bridge code base for ErgAda bridge to see the implementation details. Looks like they're continuing to think how a Rosen bridge style two-layer authentication system can be used to increase potential security of the interlay bridge. Created OP return Bitcoin transactions with metadata needed for ErgBTC bridge, and started adding final touches on the wrapping UI.
Nice, great to see. Next up, we have a little update from Glasgow. So it's just done some reorganization and refreshed the docs.ergo platform site and added all the new ErgoHack projects. So thank you very much for doing that. Quick question here from Alex, seeking some information on ErgoNames. Glasgow provided the link for that. And next up, we have Balb with ErgoNames.
All right, so it looks like ErgoNames has fixed issues with the backend not having stable minting addresses, refactored the smart contract that they use, deployed front end of ErgoNames to Flux, and started to rework SDKs to reduce the amount of calls to the Explorer.
Right. And next we have MHS Sam with a quite significant update. So on Rosen Bridge, still dealing with a soft launch, so progressing as planned till now. On the Ergo and Cardano wallets, it has been integrated into the UI, and there's a P2P connection issue. They've now found the cause and just working on the fix. And he's got a new project here that looks like he's been working on called ErgoWell. After discussions regarding staking Erg in the forum post that he has there linked, found out that the option 3 in the post is a viable option. So ErgoWell is an attempt to provide a venture funding experiment to Ergo. So it's based on the profit sharing DApp, and it has some similarities with ErgoRaffle. So based on ErgoWell, anyone can create a fund and propose some yield for stakers. Users can use the funds to funds properties to assess their risk in order to invest. The tokens in the funds pool can be completely locked, so 100% locked or any variance thereof. The liquidity funds will be provided by the project creator in order to accomplish the specified task and provide additional eventual yield for the stakers. The fund creator can put money in the yield pot to provide fixed yield to the stakers, and the fund creator can also lock some tokens in a collateral pot to in order to compensate stakers in the event of a default. It might provide a little bit more assurance there for the investor side. And the overall design of the ErgoWell is done, but the contracts are not implemented yet and open for anyone to jump in. The docs will be published in a couple of days. Another one is really busy.
Yeah, that's an interesting build there. I'm curious to see what comes out of that.
Definitely. Next up, we have haileypdll.
All right, so City. Is that right? City?
That's how I'll pronounce it.
I want to say City. All right, so City has implemented mass minting of tokens through the City contract. It's released on Flux, worked on the documentation, and on the ErgoHack report.
Nice. It's a cool little sort of project they got going on there. I'd recommend anyone to jump in and check that one out. MGpai with Ergo Sapiens. So no work this week, just been busy. On the comment side also, no work, just been busy with ErgoNames. They started the SDK conversion to GraphQL for improved performance. And next up we have ErgoPOS, the point of sale.
All right, so it looks like point of sale is dropping a development update this week. They've completed most of the APIs needed for merchant portal, waiting for front end to catch up with the progress before starting optimizations. They've completed the core part of the point of sale application order module, payment status monitoring and notifications. Looks like printing invoice with a QR code to reserve ERG as well.
Cool to see that one come to light. Next up, we have Key. So he's been working on an Ergo hack project called Dum Dum Dum, or Ergo Twitter, or a social media sort of platform running on Ergo. Hasn't done much work on Excel. So the Dum Dum Dum's back end is working and complete. So it's going to work on an front end to deploy on Flux this evening. So hopefully we see that in the near future, or hopefully by the time this video is released. And we'll be able to work on Excel this weekend. So planning to get crowdfunding contracts and transactions done by the end of the week. And this will be then jumping into the front end to help Torch build out everything. Nice to see. And next up we have Cheese Enthusiast.
All right, so it looks like Getblok subpooling the Flux pool launched. That was pretty nice to see. Looks like many QOL updates on the back end have finally arrived. Better handling of balances between pools, sync checks for AVL tree databases, consolidations of UTXO. We must have had 40K at one point. Yeah, that's basically KuCoin's problem. They kind of have beat Getblok's record at the moment. They're consolidating their UTXO set. That's why with deposits and withdrawals are not active, but it's a work in progress. It looks like Cheese also participated in the hackathon. The SNISP paper is practically done. For empirical data, we modified a common Ergo Stratum server to show each share's real difficulty, and then use that difficulty to see how valid proofs of performed work could be made. To calculate the probability of getting a valid proof, I believe we need to use a Poisson binomial distribution. I'm struggling a bit with calculating them using 256-bit integers. If someone has more experience with such things, then help would be appreciated. Making video presentation for a simple explanation of SNISPs for the hackathon.
I think that'll be required.
I think that might be needed.
Thanks very much for that update, Cheese. He's one of your co-CNFT con members, Mick from BlitzTCG. Has been out with a 9-to-5 job, but can be excited to say that they now have Nautilus wallet integration on blitztcg.com. But after you create an account, you'll see a connect button that allows you to verify your Ergo address. And once verified, that public wallet ID is passed to the in-game account, so i.e. Firebase. This might not seem like a lot, but it is because it's the first step in being able to show you the cards you own and let you use said cards in the game itself. So a big development there. And finally, we have an Unreal and the auction house.
All right. So for the auction house, it's going through the test process on testnet. It looks like they found some issues regarding the implemented process and are trying to address that and then go through a public test process. Also, the seed round for the auction house IDO is happening right now, and it lasts until the 21st. So I think that will have ended by the time this comes out. Everyone, please consider getting it out there so people know that it's okay for you. Here's our landing page as well. And so then he dropped the IDO Ergo Auctions link.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that summarizes this week's developer update. Another significant one, despite all the quietness throughout the community, the devs are head down with the Ergo hack, but then the projects themselves.
Yeah, I'm quite excited to see what MHS has in store in terms of ErgoWell. That's going to be interesting to see. And I'm definitely looking forward to reading about SNISPs.
Yeah, that's a surprise actually from MHS. Obviously, we know he's working with a team himself, but he kept that one quiet and just dumped it on the community now. So it's often the case. He'll have something that's really thought out and basically a proof of concept before he actually announces everything. So I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, we're looking forward to that SNISP description because the way sort of Cheese works, he's really great at explaining complex details. So if you want to sort of see anything in that regard, you can jump onto some of the tutorials and everything he's put together on the deco side.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for tuning in for another weekly developer update. Joe, it's been a pleasure going through these projects once again.
Always.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good one.